Let's talk about how we minimize fighting with adolescents and when we cross the line and need to seek some help. The key to this one is that you are the adult in this relationship, and although your teen would perhaps like to be viewed as equal in maturity to you, they're absolutely not. Teenagers need our protection, and part of this means that we're responsible for keeping their home environment as peaceful as possible, despite their many attempts to rock the boat. It's up to us to foster and nurture this relationship in a positive and non-demanding way. Without this, a teenager can't be effectively parented. When parents are emotionally accessible, when we're flexible, compassionate, warm, forgiving, and forthright with our adolescent children, they can authentically connect with us and we can engage their motivation. Parenting adolescents is a very delicate balance between flexibility and limit setting, discretion and frankness, and accountability and compassion. Us parents need to be willing to stand firm in the face of our adolescents' arguments and tantrums and imploring and hold them accountable for their choices. As your kid moves toward adulthood, your job is to help them to learn how to stay safe and to operate with self-control in real-world situations. And part of this includes non-violent, respectful communication, as well as the basic principle of no blaming, no shaming, and no name calling. This goes both ways. It really does. It goes both ways. So by engaging adolescent children in respectful dialogue, they can slow down long enough to consider the consequences of their decisions and behaviours. Painful though it may be, by recognising that we can't control our adolescents, we can more effectively connect with them and engage their motivation. This recognition that we can't control adolescents is really important because when we do, the results are often quite disastrous and dangerous to their lifelong well-being, and it erodes our connection. Inspiring our teens to use thinking words rather than fighting words comes down to modelling. We have to lead the way. Inconsiderate behaviour is invited with adolescents when we call them to battle. And we call our adolescents to battle when we tell them what to do, what's not allowed, and what you won't do for them. So I'm going to give you some examples. So if I'm calling my adolescent to battle by telling them what to do, I'm going to say something like, clean up your bedroom now. If I'm calling my adolescent to battle by saying what's not allowed, I might be saying, I will not let you go to the park with those kids. They smoke and they do all sorts of unsafe stuff. You're just not going. I might also call my adolescent to battle by saying to them what I'm not willing to do for them. For example, I might be saying, I'm not taking you to the shops until you vacuum your bedroom. Now, it can be tempting when our teen is pushing and fighting and stirring the pot to respond with fighting words. Right now, my adolescent daughter calls me Anna. And so what we have to do is we have to try as best as we can to restrain ourselves, reminding ourselves that they only ever invite conflict. And that if you go with that, you're very unlikely to win. So thinking words, on the other hand, allow our adolescent children to make choices and their own decisions without having anything to push up against. By thinking for themselves about their limits, they're establishing their limits in a real-world sense where they're able to practice considering and coping with the consequence of their choices. Practicing these skills while still firmly embedded in their family means that they're given a chance for trial and error in a risk-free scenario, and it will set them up to make good decisions based on their experience when the time comes to make important decisions outside their home environment. Thinking statements are when we tell our adolescent children what is expected, what we will do, and what we will accept. So this is very, very different to what we're telling them what to do, what's not allowed, and what we're not going to do for them. So when we tell our adolescents what is expected, an example of this might be, feel free to join us for the movie as soon as you clean up the kitchen. You can hear how this is so different. And when we tell our adolescent what we will do, it sounds more like, I'll be more than happy to drive you to the party as soon as you vacuum your bedroom. Thinking statements that tell our child or our young person what we will accept sound more like, you're more than welcome to join us in watching this show, or you can do something else until it's finished and then find something that interests you more. Adolescents can be emotionally fragile and often need our help to learn how to resolve their issues. So by demonstrating appropriate communication with them in times of conflict, we will eventually receive considerate and respectful communication in return. Again, consistency is key here. So when we're disciplined with ourselves and continue to practice consultative parenting against all the odds, our adolescents learn to be complicit, to honour our requests, and initiate negotiations when the situation warrants. It's so lovely when this happens. So although there's loads and loads of strategies that help here, and certainly I expand on all of this in Taming Teens, both the online course and my book, I'm going to run through some guidelines that might just give you some extra input and that might be of assistance here. We all know that adolescents incite debate due to their keen and ever-maturing intellect. This is really different to argumentativeness, and it's really natural and healthy for teenagers to question our parental judgment and to recognise and point out inconsistencies and flaws in our logic. I do acknowledge defiance is another issue entirely, and the more you welcome your teen's invitation for discussion and debate, the less likely they are to become defiant. This can be really tricky to adjust, and it can be really tricky to adjust to our teens' changing ways of thinking and their ever-improving debating skills. And I get it, sometimes it can feel plain annoying when they point out the error in our logic. But when you feel like rolling your eyes at their intelligent counter-arguments during discussions, try to activate your curiosity and excitement in their increasingly sharp wits. Because shutting down our young person's ideas and their thoughts and telling them to do something simply because you said so does both of you a disservice in the long run. Just as us adults have the right to speak up if something seems unfair to us or a rule seems illogical or arbitrary, so does our adolescent. Another thing to consider is our adolescents are developing intellectually and they're really honing their critical thinking skills. And this is something to celebrate and embrace, and it can be hard, I know. But when your adolescent stands their ground in spite of your differing viewpoint, to play devil's advocate and to learn how to lose an argument without losing face, they really do develop a strong and healthy sense of self-worth and an ever-increasing clarity about their own values, their own beliefs, and their own attitudes. Remember, it takes two to argue. Significant conflict with adolescent children often occurs when us parents feel our authority is being threatened, or when our adolescent takes steps towards independence that we don't feel ready for. So, for example, your adolescent might choose to not go on a family bushwalk in favour of hanging out with a friend. So not going to battle over such situations acknowledges that your child is growing up and that they're increasingly responsible for their own experience. And I know this can be hard, but seriously, save the battles for the things that really matter, such as their health, their safety, and when poor choices are occurring that will impact their future life as an adult. I always love to say to parents, stay committed to the goal of raising a curious, questioning, and independent young adult. These are the qualities we want to nurture through invigorating debate and an environment that welcomes their thoughts and questions. Despite what I'm sharing with you now, there are times when families need some help to solve problems. And as parents, we might feel confronted with terrible pangs and feelings of guilt or shame, or a sense of failure when considering the possibility of seeking some professional assistance. And if this is your experience, then I assure you, this does not mean you have failed as a parent. Seeking help to manage chronic behavioural or emotional problems is no different from seeing your GP when you're feeling unwell. Regardless of whether your teenager's behavioural issues have something to do with you or not, you have an opportunity to turn things around and to show them that seeking help is normal and healthy. Successful parents don't isolate themselves. They actually reach out for assistance when they need it. It's a sign of strength. Seeking professional help and the professional help of a psychologist is really important if a young person is experiencing psychological disturbances, including significant anxiety or significant low mood, self-harming or eating problems, and also around drug and alcohol abuse. In less obvious cases, a young person may seem often withdrawn or very socially shy or flat or sad. And a third party is a really wonderful resource to draw on when you may in some way potentially be contributing to the problem at hand, or when there's high conflict, extreme family stress, or if you've really unsuccessfully tried to address the problems in the past. Remember, us psychologists, we're trained to support individuals to deal with stress and psychological distress. And parenting your teen, I guess, doesn't have to be an incessant, disturbing, or isolating battle of an experience. Sometimes just knowing where to go for accurate information, such as my Taming Teens online course, or having a few sessions with a psychologist, can really, really help to turn a family's feeling of dread into one of hope. I want to thank you for watching this and following me on this YouTube channel, and I look forward to sharing more things and pearls of wisdom or insights with you over the coming months.